My daughter pointed at me, waving my own underwear in the air, and screamed that I had ruined her life. The room was already a mess before her voice shattered it completely. Clothes were scattered across the living room rug, a half-open laundry basket tipped on its side, damp t-shirts and socks spilling out like the insides of a broken animal. The TV was still on some muted daytime show, colors flickering across the walls, while my 20-year-old daughter stood in the center of the chaos with her fist clenched around a small floral pair of panties I recognized instantly as mine. "These were in his drawer, Mom," she shouted, eyes wild, cheeks blotchy from crying. "Don't just stand there, say something, look at them." Her fiancé, Kyle, sat on the edge of our couch, elbows on his knees, his face drained of color. He kept running a hand through his hair over and over, the movement jerky and desperate. "I told you, Lily, I don't know how they got there," he said, his voice cracking. "You're blowing this out of proportion." The fabric dangled between them like a flag of war. The tiny pink flowers on the white cotton looked harmless. I'd bought that pack of underwear at Target last month, grabbed in a hurry between paper towels and dish soap. I knew they were mine the moment I saw them, the moment she yanked them from the pile of laundry and held them up like evidence of a crime. I didn't say a word. My hand stayed on the back of the dining chair, fingers digging into the wood. My heart hammered so hard I could feel it in my neck. The dryer hummed in the hallway, its steady mechanical sound clashing with my daughter's ragged breathing. "So whose are they?" Lily demanded, spinning toward me, mascara smeared under her eyes. "You're always defending him. Look at these and tell me they aren't some other woman's." She shoved them closer to my face. I didn't even have to look again. The faded stitching on the waistband, the loosened elastic on one side, the exact print I'd sighed at in the mirror thinking, at my age, I should have chosen something plain. "They're not mine," she added quickly, voice shaking. "So if they're not mine and they were in his stuff, then whose are they, Mom?" Kyle's jaw clenched. "Lily, for the last time, I didn't cheat on you," he muttered. "You're being paranoid." "Oh, right, blame me," she snapped. "You always say that. I knew something was off. You've been hiding your phone, taking it to the bathroom, staying late at work. I knew it. I knew it." My gaze drifted to the laundry basket near the hallway, the one we all tossed our dirty clothes into when we were too tired to sort anything. My floral pajama top peeked out from under Kyle's hoodie, mingled together like they belonged there. Somewhere in the wash cycle, one of my pairs must have slipped into their load, ended up folded with their things. It would have taken 3 seconds to say it out loud. "Those are mine." 3 simple words, and this fight would have died on the spot. Instead, my throat tightened, and nothing came out. My mouth opened slightly, then closed again. A faint metallic taste rose on my tongue, as if my own silence had weight. "Mom," Lily's voice rose, piercing. "Why aren't you saying anything? You're just standing there like a statue. Do you think I'm crazy too?" I moved around the chair and walked toward the kitchen, the smell of coffee grounds still lingering from the pot I'd made that morning. The floorboards creaked under my slippers. Behind me, her voice followed like a siren. "Don't walk away from me, I'm talking to you." A spoon lay abandoned in the sink, streaked with dried yogurt. The faucet dripped in slow, rhythmic taps against the steel. I wrapped my hand around the edge of the counter until my knuckles turned white. I could feel their eyes on my back, one pair furious, one begging. "Mrs. Harper," Kyle said, sounding smaller than he liked to appear, "can you please just tell her this is ridiculous? You know I would never—" "How would she know?" Lily cut in. "She barely sees what's in front of her. She always acts like everything is fine. She pretends." The words hit harder than I expected. My shoulders stiffened. For a moment, the kitchen blurred, edges softening as if I were looking through water. I turned back slowly. Lily was still there in the middle of the living room, hair pulled into a messy bun, t-shirt twisted, one sock on, one sock off. She looked like a child and a stranger at the same time. Kyle sat behind her, fingers pressed to his temples. "You think I'm stupid?" she demanded. "You think I don't know when someone is lying to me?" Her lower lip quivered. The underwear trembled in her hand. Somewhere under all that anger was a little girl who once came running into this same room, wearing my heels, laughing as she dragged one of my skirts behind her like a princess train. That memory flashed through my mind and then dissolved as quickly as it came. I pushed it away. "I think," I said finally, keeping my voice flat, "you two need to calm down." "That's it?" she scoffed. "That's all you're going to say? You saw them. You saw them, Mom. You were standing right there when I pulled them out. You saw the way he looked, how nervous he got." I had seen it. I'd also seen the tiny care label tag I always cut off my underwear because they scratch my skin. This pair still had its tag, curling slightly from the wash. My wash. The truth pressed against my teeth like steam under a lid. One sentence, and this would all stop. One sentence, and she wouldn't be looking at me with that broken mix of fury and desperation. I stayed quiet. The front door was still unlocked. I heard the faint buzz of traffic outside, the distant bark of a dog, the ice cream truck music playing somewhere down the block. Life went on, even when your child was tearing herself apart in your living room. "Fine," Lily said, voice dropping lower, dangerously calm. "You don't want to say anything? Then I'll say it. You're a liar, Kyle. You're a liar, and you've humiliated me in front of my own mother." "She's not even taking your side," he protested. "Doesn't that tell you something?" "It tells me she's scared to admit what she knows," Lily shot back. "Just like she always has been." Her words sliced through me more cleanly than any accusation could. I felt the sting deep in my chest. For a brief second, my composure slipped. Then I pulled it back, like smoothing wrinkles from a tablecloth. The front door opened suddenly. My husband, Mark, stepped inside, juggling a bag of groceries, the smell of apples and dish soap drifting in with him. He stopped short when he saw the scene. The piles of laundry, Lily's red face, Kyle's clenched jaw, the small floral underwear still clenched in our daughter's hand. "What on earth is going on?" he asked, setting the bag down slowly. Lily spun toward him, breath hitching. "Dad, I found these in Kyle's stuff," she said, shoving the underwear toward him. "He's cheating on me, look." Mark glanced at the fabric, squinted, then let out a short, startled laugh. "Those are your mother's," he said. "They must have gotten mixed in with your laundry." The room froze. Lily's arm dropped a few inches. Kyle blinked, as if someone had flicked on a light in a dark room. My stomach twisted painfully. Mark looked at me, then at our daughter again, clearly confused by the tension hanging like smoke in the air. "Right?" he added, turning toward me. "Those are yours, aren't they?" 3 sets of eyes locked onto my face. My lips parted, and for the first time that night I felt a sound rising from somewhere deep. Not words, not an apology. A small, sharp laugh slipped out instead, raw and wrong in the heavy silence. Lily's face crumpled. Her fingers released the fabric, and it fluttered to the floor between us like something dead. Her eyes filled instantly, tears spilling before she could wipe them away. She stared at me as if she'd never seen me before, as if the person standing in front of her was a stranger wearing her mother's face. "You knew," she whispered. "You knew the whole time." I didn't answer. The truth sat there between us on the rug, limp and floral and undeniable, and with it something far more fragile collapsed that none of them could see yet. They would. Kyle was the first one to move. He pushed himself up from the couch so fast the cushions sighed, then stepped over the fallen underwear like it was something poisonous on the floor. His jaw was tight, the vein in his neck pulsing. He didn't look at Lily. He looked at me. "We're done here," he said quietly, too quietly, and the softness made it worse than if he'd shouted. "This whole house is messed up." He grabbed his keys from the coffee table, the metal clattering louder than it should have, then brushed past my shoulder on his way to the door. It wasn't a shove, not exactly, but there was enough deliberate weight in that contact that I had to catch myself on the wall. The door slammed a heartbeat later, rattling the picture frames in the hallway. Silence flooded the room, thick and humming. The TV kept flickering in the corner, some sitcom laugh track bubbling up at the worst possible moment. Mark reached for the remote and shut it off, plunging us into a hollow, unnatural quiet. Lily didn't cry loudly. That almost made it worse. Her shoulders jerked once, then she just folded, like someone had cut the strings holding her up. She sat down slowly on the edge of the coffee table, eyes fixed on the underwear on the rug. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. "Lily," I said, taking a step closer. "Honey, don't," she rasped without looking up. "Just don't." Mark bent down and picked up the underwear with 2 fingers, shaking his head. "This is what this was all about?" he muttered. "For God's sake, it's just laundry. Things get mixed up all the time." Lily flinched at his tone. "It wasn't just laundry to me," she said, voice thin but sharp. "It was my life." And she knew. Her eyes lifted to mine then, and I saw it clearly, not just hurt, but something colder forming underneath. "You knew, Mom. You watched me scream and cry and accuse him, and you said nothing." My mouth went dry. "I didn't want to interfere in your relationship," I managed. "You two were already—" "You didn't want to interfere," she cut in, laughing once, a small, brittle sound. "You stood there and watched me humiliate myself, watched me believe he was sleeping with someone else, and you didn't want to interfere?" Mark sighed, rubbing his forehead. "Lily, your mother probably didn't even realize at first. I saw her face," Lily snapped. "She knew. And then you walked in and confirmed it in 1 second. 1 second. She could have done that half an hour ago." Her words landed like slaps I had no defense for. I could feel Mark looking at me now, too. That quizzical, puzzled look he used when a puzzle piece didn't fit where he thought it would. I didn't meet his eyes. "I'm going upstairs," Lily said suddenly, pushing herself up. "I don't feel safe down here." That word hit me sideways. Safe. As if I'd become something dangerous without leaving my spot by the kitchen counter. She stepped around me carefully, like I was a spill on the floor she didn't want touching her shoes. On the stairs, her hand slid along the railing, knuckles white. Halfway up, she turned her head just enough that I could see the profile of her face, wet streaks on her cheeks. "You chose your comfort over my dignity," she said. "I won't forget that." Then she disappeared around the corner, her footsteps fading into the creak of her bedroom door. Mark exhaled slowly. The sound long and tired. He dropped the underwear into the laundry basket and straightened, hands on his hips. "Why didn't you say something?" he asked quietly. The question wasn't angry yet. That almost made it worse. I could have handled anger. I wasn't prepared for confusion. "I don't know," I answered, which was only partly a lie. It all happened so fast. She was shouting, he was denying, and I froze. "You didn't look frozen when you laughed," he said. That was the first little cut, not deep, but sharp. "I didn't mean to," I said. "It just came out. The whole thing was absurd. You walked in and solved it in 2 words. It was ridiculous." "Ridiculous to you," he said. He glanced toward the stairs. To her, it was the end of her relationship. He picked up the grocery bag, taking it to the kitchen. I followed. The tile cool under my feet. The everyday sounds started up again. The crinkle of plastic, the thud of apples on the counter, the refrigerator door opening with its soft suction pop. Normal domestic noises, trying to stitch themselves back over a gaping rip. I gave them a deadline to move out, I reminded him, opening a cabinet just to have something to touch. 2 months. I can't live like this forever. Every day is another explosion, another crisis. "That doesn't mean you let her walk off a cliff when you're holding the railing," he said mildly. Another cut. I swallowed hard. A glass sat upside down on the drying rack, a thin ring of water around its rim. I turned it the right way up just to hear the small, hollow clink, needing the sound. Upstairs, a door shut again, harder this time. A second later, I heard Kyle's car pull back into the driveway, engine rumbling low. Mark and I exchanged a brief glance, then both looked away. The front door opened with less force than before, but the air shifted as soon as he stepped inside. He didn't come into the kitchen. He stood at the edge of the living room, shoes still on, keys in his hand. "Is she upstairs?" he asked. I nodded. He didn't thank me. He didn't look at me either. His eyes skimmed right past me over the countertops, over the grocery bag, as if I were just another appliance humming in the background. He started up the stairs, but halfway up, he paused and turned his head slightly. Not enough to meet my eyes, just enough that his words would reach me clearly. "You should have said something," he said. "You let her destroy herself in front of you." "What kind of mother does that?" He didn't wait for an answer. He continued up, his footsteps heavy and sure. That was the first micro shock of the evening. Not the fight over underwear, not even Lily's accusation, but the man I already disliked handing me a verdict I'd been avoiding passing on myself. Voices drifted down a few minutes later, muffled by walls and carpeting. Not words, just tones. Lily's pitch high and raw, Kyle's low and strained, rising and falling like two instruments playing in different keys. Every so often something hit a wall or floor, a drawer slamming, a shoe thrown, I couldn't tell. "Do we go up?" Mark asked. "If we do, she'll say we're taking sides," I replied. "If we don't, she'll say we don't care." "So we lose either way," he muttered. I opened the freezer, stared at the frost-lined shelves, then closed it again. My hands didn't know where to rest. I wiped a non-existent crumb from the counter. I straightened the dish towel. The house felt smaller than it had that morning, as if the walls had crept in while we weren't looking. Half an hour later, the voices stopped. The quiet returned, heavy and buzzing. Then another sound, the sharp scrape of a suitcase across hardwood. I stepped into the hallway just as Lily appeared at the top of the stairs, dragging her duffel bag behind her. Kyle followed with a larger suitcase. Both of their faces were blank, the kind of blank that only comes after you've cried yourself dry. "What are you doing?" I asked. "We're leaving," Lily said simply. Her voice no longer shook. That scared me more than the shouting had. "You gave us a deadline, remember? Consider it moved up." "It's late," Mark protested. "You don't even have a place yet." "We'll figure it out," Kyle said. This time, he looked right at me when he spoke. There was no nervousness now, just something cool, something settled. "Staying here isn't good for us, clearly." He shifted the handle of the suitcase in his grip. "Don't worry," he added almost casually. "We'll be out of your hair. You can enjoy your peace and quiet." There was poison tucked neatly into that last phrase. Lily reached the bottom of the stairs and paused in front of me. For a moment, I thought she might hug me, lean into me like she used to when she got overwhelmed. Instead, she reached into the side pocket of her duffel bag, pulled out the crumpled floral underwear, and pressed them into my hand. "Here," she said. "In case you want to keep using them to test how far you can push someone before they break." I recoiled slightly, the damp fabric cold against my palm. She walked past me toward the door. "Lily, wait," I said, taking a step after her. "You don't have to." She stopped with her hand on the doorknob, but didn't turn around. "I don't trust you anymore," she said. "That's the problem, and I don't know how to live under the same roof with someone I can't trust." She opened the door. Cool evening air swept in, carrying the faint smell of rain and asphalt. And then, just before she stepped out, she glanced back over her shoulder, not at me, but at her father. "If anything happens to us," she said steadily, "just remember, we left because she watched me drown and thought it was funny." The door clicked shut behind them. I didn't sleep that night. Not because of the shouting or the door slamming, or the way Lily's words kept echoing through the hallway long after she and Kyle were gone. It was the quiet afterward that kept me awake. The strange, eerie silence a house holds after a storm, when everything looks the same but nothing feels familiar anymore. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, the faint hum of the street lamp outside flickering through the curtains. Mark's breathing had settled into a deep rhythm beside me, steady, reassuring, but even that comfort seemed too far away to reach. My mind kept circling the same question over and over until it carved a groove inside me. How did we get here? Not just tonight, not just the underwear or the fight, but the long road before it. The one I had walked with Lily from the moment she took her first breath in the delivery room. Tiny, furious, red-faced, screaming loud enough to drown out every other baby. The nurse had placed her on my chest, and she'd quieted instantly, as if she recognized my heartbeat from the inside. She'd always been intense, always been emotional, always been mine. When she was little, she used to follow me around the house with a plastic mixing bowl on her head, pretending it was a helmet. She would tug at my shirt and ask, "Is this how you do it, Mommy?" "Like you." And I would laugh and scoop her up, telling her she could be anything at all. She believed me then. I'm not sure she ever forgave me for the years that proved otherwise. We didn't have much money in those early years. Mark worked double shifts at the warehouse, coming home with his shirt damp from sweat and the smell of cardboard and diesel on his skin. I worked part-time at the grocery store bakery, waking up at 4 in the morning to knead dough that never listened to me, shaping loaves that collapsed in the oven more often than not. I can still smell that bakery when I close my eyes, yeast rising warm in the air, the faint burn of over-baked sugar, the sting of bleach we used at the end of each shift. My hands were always dry back then, the skin cracked from the flour. Sometimes I wore gloves to bed to keep the lotion from rubbing off on the sheets. I never told anyone how ashamed I felt when customers would hand over money without letting their fingers brush mine. But we survived. That's what I told myself every time I packed Lily's lunch for school. An apple if we had them, half an apple if we didn't, PB&J with more jelly than peanut butter because jelly was cheaper. I used to slip a sticky note in there too, little drawings of hearts or smiley faces, hoping it would remind her that even if her backpack was frayed and her shoes had scuff marks, she was loved. She used to keep them all. I found them years later, folded carefully in a shoebox under her bed, yellowed around the edges. Back then, our home was small and noisy and bursting with the kind of chaos you grow nostalgic for without realizing it. Lily would run through the living room, dragging a blanket behind her, pretending it was a cape. Mark would lift her onto his shoulders until she squealed. I would watch them from the kitchen doorway, hands covered in flour, heart fuller than anything I'd known before. Somewhere along the way, things got heavier. Lily was 13 the first time she slammed a door so hard the frame rattled. I remember the sound, not the slam, but the crack in the drywall afterward. That was when she started keeping secrets, started coming home with her eyes swollen, started slipping through conversations like she wasn't really there. Middle school. The crucible no one warns you about. One afternoon, her teacher called me at work, her voice soft and careful, the way people speak when they're about to tell you something that will rearrange your insides. Your daughter's been sitting alone at lunch for 2 weeks. I left work early that day. I remember walking into the school cafeteria and seeing her there at the corner table, body curled inward, picking apart her sandwich piece by piece as if eating it would make her disappear. She didn't see me right away. I watched her for a moment longer than I should have, taking in the hunched shoulders, the too still stillness. When I finally sat beside her, she flinched like she'd been caught doing something shameful. "Mom, why are you here?" she whispered. "You didn't answer my texts." Her eyes stayed on her hands. "I didn't want to bother you." That sentence still hurts more than anything she said tonight. I didn't know then how to fix loneliness in a 13-year-old. I bought her a new jacket instead, bright yellow, warm, expensive. I told myself it would help her stand out in a good way. Told myself it might make her feel seen. Told myself money could cover the things I didn't know how to heal. But the jacket didn't fix anything. Nothing ever does when you don't know the shape of the real wound. By high school, Lily had turned her loneliness into armor. She got sharper, quicker with her words. She learned how to wound first so no one could wound her. She made friends, lost them, made new ones, lost them too. Every argument with Mark or me turned volcanic. Every disappointment felt like betrayal. Every boundary we tried to set was a personal attack. But she also had moments of softness, little pockets of tenderness she never let the world see, but sometimes let slip with me. Like the night she sat on the foot of my bed after a terrible breakup, curling into herself until she looked small again, like the child with the plastic mixing bowl on her head. "Why do people leave?" she'd asked, voice muffled in my blanket. "Because they don't know how to stay," I said. She rested her head on my lap and cried until her breath grew steady. I ran my fingers through her hair, the same way I did when she was a baby, and whispered the lie mothers are allowed to tell, "You'll be loved the right way someday." She wanted so badly to believe it. I wanted so badly to make it true. Then she met Kyle. I remember the first time she brought him home, nervous and glowing, cheeks flushed as if she'd been running. He shook my hand with a grip too tight to be polite. He complimented the house in a tone that sounded like he was evaluating it. He used my first name without asking. He called Lily babe in front of us with a casualness that felt performative. But then he washed the dishes after dinner without being asked. He made Lily laugh in a way I hadn't heard in years. He talked about goals, ambitions, plans for the future. And Lily looked at him like he was the first open door she'd seen in a long time. I wanted to protect her, but I wanted her happy more. And happiness makes mothers patient. Too patient sometimes. At first, I thought Kyle was good for her. He calmed her. He softened her edges. He made her feel chosen. But slowly, subtly, the balance began to tilt. She became quieter, more apologetic, always worried she might upset him, always anxious about his moods. She once told me, laughing a little, that if she didn't reply to his texts fast enough, he'd call 3 times in a row just to make sure she was okay. I didn't recognize it then for what it was. I recognize it now. And somewhere in that slow erosion of who she used to be, somewhere in the long stretch of years between her childhood and tonight, something in me hardened too. A shell, a defense, a way of surviving her storms by stepping out of their way instead of standing in them with her. I told myself it was wisdom. But maybe it was retreat. Maybe it was fear. Maybe it was exhaustion carved into my bones from years of trying to hold up a daughter who never felt held enough. The night she and Kyle moved in with us, I felt that familiar heaviness return. The clutter, the slammed doors, the shifting moods. Our home became a minefield again, except this time the explosions weren't from a teenager, but from 2 adults who couldn't tell the difference between passion and destruction. Laundry piled quickly. Dishes doubled. Tension grew like mold in the corners. And I grew quieter. Everything felt like walking on glass. And when you walk on glass long enough, you start watching the floor instead of the people you love. So tonight, when she stood there waving my underwear in her hand, when she was certain her world was shattering again, when she looked at me for truth, I hesitated. And she broke. Not because of the underwear, but because of the years before it. The years where she learned that silence can feel like abandonment. I rolled onto my side and pressed a hand to my chest, feeling the slow ache beneath my ribs. The house felt too big without her storming through it. Mark shifted beside me. "You awake?" he murmured. "Yes," I whispered. A pause. Then, "We'll fix this." I didn't answer, because for the first time, I wasn't sure if fixing was still possible. Outside, a car drove past, its headlights sweeping across our wall like passing searchlights. I watched the shadows move across the ceiling and remembered Lily at 5 years old, climbing into our bed during a thunderstorm, whispering, "Don't fall asleep, Mommy. Stay awake with me." And I had. For years, I had. But somewhere along the way, without noticing, I'd closed my eyes, and now she was gone. The morning after Lily left, the house felt hollow in a way I hadn't expected. Not quiet. Quiet can be peaceful. This was different. This was the kind of emptiness that echoes when you set a glass down, the kind that makes every footstep sound accusatory. I stood at the kitchen counter, spreading butter on toast, the knife scraping too loudly against the bread. Mark was sitting at the table, flipping through the mail, though he hadn't turned a page in several minutes. A thin strip of sunlight slid across the floor, highlighting dust I hadn't noticed before. "She's not answering my texts," I said, finally. He didn't look up. "Give her time." Time implies she wants to come back. He pressed his thumb against the corner of an envelope until it bent. "She'll calm down. She always does." But she wasn't 13 anymore. She wasn't slamming her door and blasting music until she burned through her rage. She was gone. Physically gone. And something about the way she'd left made the air taste metallic, like the moments after you bite your tongue. The toaster popped, startling me. The toast dropped slightly onto the counter. I grabbed it before it fell, brushing off crumbs as if that could erase the tremor in my hands. Around noon, the doorbell rang. I froze. Mark looked up at me, then at the front door. "Maybe she came back?" I whispered. He didn't answer. We both knew the ring wasn't hers. She always knocked fast, 2 short taps followed by 1 long one, the same rhythm she'd used through high school when she forgot her keys. Mark walked through the living room and opened the door. Kyle stepped inside. The sight of him hit me like a cold draft. He was wearing the same jacket as yesterday, wrinkled, his hair unwashed. He didn't look exhausted. He looked composed. Too composed. His expression had a quiet sharpness to it, a practiced neutrality that felt like a mask. "Is she here?" he asked. "No," Mark said. "You know she's not." Kyle shifted his weight, hands in his pockets. "She left her charger. I thought she might have stopped by to get it." "She hasn't," I said from behind the couch. He finally looked at me then, his gaze skimming over my face with unsettling calculation. Not anger, not grief, just assessment. "Did she call you?" he asked. "No." He nodded once, as if my answer confirmed something he had already decided. He walked past Mark and into the living room without asking permission. The smell of stale cologne trailed faintly behind him. He moved to the laundry basket, the same one where the underwear disaster had begun, and nudged it with his foot. "This all started because of laundry," he said quietly. "Imagine that." I kept my distance. "It was an accident." "Was it?" he asked, turning slightly, though not enough to meet my eyes. People don't always do things on accident. Sometimes they choose not to do something. Sometimes silence is intentional. The message was aimed directly at me. Mark stepped forward. "Look, tensions were high. Everyone reacted badly, but nudging old wounds doesn't help anything." Kyle tilted his head. "Old wounds? Interesting way to phrase it." He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. "She wrote something this morning. Thought you should see it." I took it before Mark could. The handwriting was hers. Slanted, hurried, uneven. "I need space. Please respect that. I don't want to talk right now. Please don't chase me. Mom, I'm not ready to hear from you." The last line was crossed out, rewritten darker. "I'm hurt and angry and confused. Please give me time." My throat tightened. The words blurred for a moment before sharpening again. Kyle watched me read. "She cried all night," he said. "You really did a number on her. Humiliation number 1. Mark shot him a warning look. "Enough." Kyle shrugged. "I'm just stating facts." Then he added, almost casually, "She said she doesn't feel safe around you right now." The sentence hit like a slap. Sharp, sudden, electrifying with shame. "Safe?" I repeated. "Why would she say that?" "Because she feels like you were enjoying watching her fall apart," he said smoothly. "That laugh, she said it felt like betrayal." Humiliation, obtuse. I opened my mouth to defend myself, but no words formed. The memory of that involuntary laugh, the small, sharp, misplaced sound, crackled like static in my mind. "She's confused," Mark said. "You two were arguing. Emotions were high. Kyle raised an eyebrow. Are you sure it's confusion? Or is it clarity? He turned toward me fully for the first time. Maybe she finally saw who you really are. Humiliation, the 3. The room darkened at the edges. My fingers curled against my palms. My chest tightened with a slow, squeezing pressure, as though something inside was collapsing. I steadied myself against the edge of the couch. I refused to cry in front of him. He didn't deserve my tears, but my silence, the very thing that had started this chain reaction, stood between us like a ghost I couldn't banish. Kyle slid the note back into his pocket. She's at her friend Jenna's place. She doesn't want visitors. Is she okay? I asked. She's processing, he said. In her own way. That meant she was drowning in guilt and rage. I knew her processing better than he did. Kyle walked toward the door, then paused. Oh, he added, turning slightly. She asked me to collect the rest of her things, but I thought I'd give you time. You know, to get used to the idea. He let that sink in. Then he left. The quiet after his departure was worse than before. It felt contaminated, like the air itself had absorbed all the venom he'd brought in with him. Mark rubbed the back of his neck. He's manipulating her, he said, twisting things. I sank onto the couch. He didn't have to twist much, I whispered. She already believes I failed her. He sat beside me but didn't touch me. The distance wasn't intentional, but it was felt. Hours passed in slow motion. I tried cleaning the kitchen. I tried folding laundry. I tried reading a book. Nothing stayed in my hands for more than a few minutes. Every corner of the house held something of hers. A mug she always used, her blanket draped over the arm of the couch, a half-finished sketch on the dining table with smudged pencil marks. That sketch broke me more than anything else. Around dinner time, there was another knock. This time, it wasn't Kyle. It was Jenna. She stood on the porch, arms crossed, expression guarded. Her hair was pulled into a messy bun, and she wore an oversized sweater with sleeves covering half her hands. She'd known Lily since kindergarten. They'd survived adolescence together, drifted apart, found each other again in adulthood. "Can I come in?" she asked. I stepped aside immediately. "Is she with you?" "No," Jenna said. She needed to rest. She finally fell asleep. Relief and dread tangled inside me. Jenna walked into the living room and sat on the edge of an armchair. She glanced at Mark, then focused on me. "She told me what happened," she said. I swallowed. "And?" "She's hurting," Jenna said plainly, "and she feels like she embarrassed herself in front of him. In front of you." She hesitated. "She said your laugh felt like confirmation that she's ridiculous." The word split something inside me. "I didn't laugh at her," I said. It came out. Everything was so absurd." "She doesn't see it that way," Jenna replied. "She thinks you sided with him." "I didn't side with anyone." "I know that," Jenna said gently, "but she doesn't." Silence stretched between us. Then Jenna leaned forward slightly. "Can I ask something?" she said softly. "Not to judge you, just to understand." "Yes." "Why didn't you say they were yours?" The question was simple and lethal and fair. "I froze," I said. "I didn't want to interfere. I didn't want to take over her fight. I thought—" I stopped, realizing how hollow my own excuses sounded. I don't know what I thought. I should have said something. Jenna's expression softened. "She's scared of losing him," she whispered. "And she's scared of losing you. Last night felt like losing both." My breath caught. Another micro-shock. Losing both. "Can we fix this?" I asked. Jenna hesitated. "I think she wants to come home eventually," she said. "But she needs to feel like you'll protect her emotions, not watch from the sidelines." That landed with a weight I wasn't prepared to hold. Jenna stood. "I'll check on her in the morning. I'll text you." She hugged me. Quick, light, but real. Then she left. When the door closed, I sank onto the couch again. For minutes, maybe longer, I sat still, pressed into the cushions as though gravity had doubled. Mark brought me a glass of water. "Drink," he said, but I couldn't lift it. "Do you want to talk?" he asked quietly. No. I didn't have enough clarity to talk. All I had was replay. Endless replay. Late that night, after Mark went to bed, I wandered into the living room. The lamp near the window cast a soft pool of light across the carpet. I picked up the crumpled underwear from yesterday, the symbol of everything that had cracked. I stared at it until my eyes burned. Then the phone buzzed. A message. My stomach flipped. I grabbed it quickly. It was from an unknown number, 3 words. "You deserve this." A cold wave rolled through me. I looked toward the stairs, toward the quiet dark of the house, and realized something with chilling certainty. This wasn't just conflict. This was escalation, and someone wanted me to break. The deep spike settled in my chest like a stone. I woke before sunrise, not from rest, but from something sharp stirring inside my chest. The house was still dark, the kind of dark that feels thick enough to touch. I sat up slowly, listening for any sound. Footsteps, a door, the creak of the hallway. But the only thing I heard was the faint hum of the refrigerator downstairs. Mark was still asleep. I could tell from the way his breathing sat heavy in the room. Yesterday had exhausted him too, though neither of us said it aloud. I slipped out of bed quietly, the floor cold beneath my feet, and made my way downstairs. The living room was dim, washed in the bluish gray of early morning. I turned on the lamp by the sofa, and the light revealed the small mess left from the night before. Jenna's empty water glass, the blanket I'd pulled over myself at some point, the folded note from Lily lying face down on the coffee table. I picked up the note again, not to chase her, not to contact her, not ready to hear from me. I traced her handwriting with my fingertip, the loops, the pressure, the faint tremble in the strokes. For years, I'd been able to read her emotions by the way she held a pen. This one was written in the language of someone protecting herself from a familiar wound. I set it down gently. The knock came just as I inhaled my first sip of breath. Soft, hesitant, too early for visitors, too soft for Kyle. Not Jenna's rhythm. I opened the door. It was my neighbor, Mrs. Callahan, wrapped in a robe and holding a grocery bag in one hand. She looked startled to see me awake. "Oh," she said, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "I didn't expect you to answer this early." I forced a small smile. "Everything okay?" She hesitated. Just one beat, but I caught it. "I wanted to bring over the muffins I made last night," she said, lifting the bag. "I meant to come by later, but, well, I saw some things yesterday evening, and I wasn't sure if I should say anything." My stomach tightened. "What things?" Another hesitation. This one longer. "I was taking out the trash around 9, she said softly, "and I saw your daughter and her fiancé in the driveway." My pulse kicked. "They were arguing," she continued. "He was standing very close to her, too close, and she kept stepping back, but he kept crowding her, touching her arm, pulling her forward when she leaned away." Cold slid down my spine. "She looked frightened," Mrs. Callahan whispered. "I thought about coming over, but then she drove off with him. I assumed they were just emotional. But after hearing noises earlier and knowing she's not here now, I wasn't sure." I gripped the door frame, my fingers digging into the wood. "She wasn't frightened," I said automatically. "She was upset. Because of me." "No," Mrs. Callahan replied gently. "This wasn't about you. This was something else." Something else. A small phrase, but it pressed against every denial I had left. "I'm sorry if this oversteps," she added, offering the bag of muffins. "I just thought you should know. The way he grabbed her arm. It didn't look like a couple arguing. It looked like someone making sure she didn't leave." The world tilted. For a moment, everything went still. The air, the morning light, the movement of my own breath. Then, without thinking, I reached for the grocery bag, thanking her automatically, though I couldn't recall the words. When she left, I closed the door and stood in the hallway, the bag hanging loosely from my hand. Something else. I walked to the living room and set the bag on the coffee table. My palms were sweating. My heartbeat pulsed in my throat. I looked around the room, the scene too calm for the storm brewing inside me. Then my eyes caught on something small, something half hidden beneath the couch, a sliver of white fabric. I leaned down and pulled it out. It was Lily's tank top, the one she wore to bed the night before she left. Thin straps, soft cotton, a faint rip near the hemline. I lifted it to my face and inhaled. Bergamot. The body spray she'd used since high school, comforting, familiar, and underneath it, sharper, metallic. The faintest hint of dried tears. Something broke open inside me. Not pain, not guilt, not fear. Clarity. Cold, clean, undeniable clarity. And with it came the sudden, terrifying understanding that the underwear fight had never been the real danger. It was a distraction, a detonation, a flare revealing just how vulnerable she was, how easily someone could steer her emotions, feed her doubts, corner her, move her like a piece on a board. She wasn't safe, and I had stood in the doorway watching her drown. The realization burned through me, crisp and searing. No more. A sound cut through the house then, a vibration from the kitchen counter, my phone. I walked to it slowly as if any sudden movement might shatter the fragile understanding forming inside me. A new message. Same unknown number as last night. 4 words this time. You should be afraid. A chill rolled through me. But it didn't send me backward. It pushed me forward. Morning light crept slowly into the kitchen, thin and pale, as if even the sun was hesitant to enter the house. I sat at the table with my hands wrapped around a mug of coffee that had gone cold long before I remembered to drink it. Across from me, Mark watched me carefully, concern etched into the tight lines around his eyes. "You barely slept," he said. "I'm fine." He didn't believe me. I didn't believe myself. But neither of us pushed the point. Instead, I reached for my phone again, looking at the message from the unknown number. You should be afraid. The words no longer sank like stones. They sharpened, crystallized, forming something decisive inside me. Not fear, not panic, something steadier, something I hadn't felt in years. Purpose. Mark leaned forward. "You think it's from him?" "I don't know," I said. "But it doesn't matter. Someone wants me frightened. Someone wants me quiet." His brow furrowed. "Quiet about what?" "That's what I need to find out." He hesitated, studying me. "What are you planning to do?" I didn't answer. Not directly. I couldn't. Not until I knew for certain myself. Instead, I rose from the table and began clearing it mechanically, the clink of dishes filling the silence. But my mind wasn't in the kitchen. My mind was at Jenna's house, at the driveway where Mrs. Callahan saw Lily flinch, at the tank top I'd found under the couch, at the tiny note in Lily's handwriting, trembling with the weight of things she didn't yet know how to say. Something was wrong. Wrong in a way I couldn't ignore anymore, and I was done pretending I couldn't see it. I washed the dishes slowly, letting the warm water soften the stiffness in my fingers, letting the small domestic ritual settle the edges of my thoughts. Then I dried my hands and went upstairs. Lily's room was exactly as she'd left it. Sheets rumpled, makeup open on the dresser, a glass of water half-finished beside her bed. A sweater draped over the chair, a faint indentation in the carpet where her suitcase had rested, her life frozen mid-breath. I stepped inside with the care of someone entering a sanctuary. This room used to smell like childhood: lavender lotion, apple shampoo, pencil shavings, the faint sweetness of bubble gum. Now it smelled faintly of adult perfume and something more complicated underneath. I opened her desk drawer. Loose pens. A wadded receipt from a grocery store. A small envelope addressed to her but never opened. I set that aside for later. I checked her nightstand. Hair ties, a compact mirror, a small notebook with a broken spine. I flipped it open. Inside were scribbled phrases, fragments of thoughts, raw and unfiltered. Why do I always apologize first? I'm so tired of feeling wrong even when I know I'm right. I don't know who I am with him. Is it my fault or his? Mom used to protect me. What happened? The last line hit like a dull blow. I closed the notebook carefully, pressing my palm to the cover as if that could ease the pressure blooming behind my ribs. Then I noticed something else, something tucked between the mattress and the wall. I reached for it, fingers brushing against paper. When I pulled it out, I froze. A printed screenshot from an email to Lily from Kyle's subject, "You embarrassed me." The message was short, sharp. If you ever pull a stunt like that again, you'll regret it. Stop acting like a child. You need to learn your place. My breath stilled. A cold, steady anger rose inside me, quiet but immense. The kind of anger that doesn't scream, it focuses, clarifies. I folded the paper and slipped it into my pocket. Downstairs, I found Mark standing in the hallway with his jacket on. "I'm heading out," he said. "Need anything?" "Where are you going?" "To get some air," he said. "Clear my head." He hesitated. "I know you're in some kind of planning mode, but just be careful. Don't escalate things before we know more." I nodded, though we both knew I had no intention of sitting still. As soon as he left, I retrieved my own laptop and sat at the dining table. The hum of the refrigerator became the only sound, a steady backdrop as I searched through old text backups, voice messages, photos, anything that could form a timeline, something solid, something real. Signs were everywhere once I knew where to look. Messages where Lily apologized over and over for minor things. Messages where Kyle accused her of making scenes or embarrassing him in public. Missed calls clustered in frantic patterns. Voice recordings where she sounded small. The control was unmistakable, threaded through months of communication. But buried among them was one more troubling discovery. 2 deleted voicemails. Both dated 2 nights before the underwear incident. Both marked as "from Kyle." I restored them. The first played through the speaker, his voice low and hard. "If you storm off again, don't expect me to come after you. I'm not babysitting your emotions." The second was shorter. "You think your parents will save you? They won't. They never do." My fingers curled around the edge of the table. The messages weren't threats by legal definition, not enough to file a report, not enough to prove anything concrete, but they revealed a pattern, a mindset, a level of entitlement and manipulation that narrowed my breath. I typed out everything I'd gathered so far: dates, screenshots, notes, patterns. My hands moved mechanically, methodically. Preparation didn't require noise. It required accuracy. I was halfway through documenting the voicemail timestamps when my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. A third message. "Stop digging." My pulse shifted, not quickening but tightening. I typed back before I could overthink it. "Who is this?" 3 dots appeared on the screen, then disappeared, then reappeared. Then the reply came, "Doesn't matter, but if you don't stop, you'll destroy her life." The implication settled cold in my stomach. But not in the way they intended. Instead of backing away, I leaned forward, because now I knew 2 things. 1, someone was afraid of what I might uncover. 2, I was done being afraid of them. I grabbed my keys. As I opened the front door, I saw movement across the street. Someone stepping quickly behind a parked car. A figure, hard to see, but noticeable. A second microshock. Someone was watching the house. I locked the door behind me and headed to the one person who might help me sort through the spiraling threads: Jenna. Her apartment sat above a hair salon, the scent of shampoo always lingering in the hallway. She opened the door with a surprised expression, still wearing pajamas, hair piled on her head. "Is Lily here?" I asked. "No," she said, stepping aside. "She left early. Said she needed air and didn't want to wake me." A flicker of worry crossed her face. I stepped inside. "I need your help." She poured coffee for both of us, then sat across the table, her eyes narrowed with concern. What happened now? I laid out the pieces, the messages, the email, the voicemails, the neighbor's observation, the unknown number, the tank top, all of it in order, like evidence spread across a courtroom table. Jenna's reaction was immediate. Her jaw tightened, her hands folded slowly, deliberately. "He's isolating her," she said. "He's pushing her to doubt you so he can control every part of her life. I should have seen it sooner." "You wanted to believe she was okay," Jenna said gently. "Mothers do that. But now you know, and now we do something about it." "Exactly." A quiet resolve settled between us. Then my phone buzzed again. A fourth message, "Last warning," followed by an address. My chest tightened when I saw it. It wasn't Kyle's apartment. It wasn't Jenna's. It was somewhere else. Somewhere Lily should not be. I stood so fast the chair scraped loudly against the floor. "Where are you going?" Jenna asked. I showed her the screen, her face drained of color. The address sat on my screen like a dare. I stared at it for a full 5 seconds before my body moved faster than my thoughts. I grabbed my keys, my bag, and the folded pages of printed messages and emails I'd stuffed into it, our thin armor. Jenna was already standing, pale, one hand pressed to her mouth. "That's across town," she said, voice tight, "near the old strip mall." "I know where it is," I replied. "Do you think it's him?" "Yes." "Do you think she's there?" "I don't know," I said, "but whoever sent that wants me to be afraid. They chose this place for a reason." My heart pounded hard, but the panic stayed surprisingly contained, wrapped in something sharper. Fear used to paralyze me. Today it focused me. "Come with me," I added. "I'm not letting you go alone." We moved quickly. My fingers trembled only once when I texted Mark. "Something's happening. Meet me at this address. Don't call, just come." He responded almost immediately. "On my way." The drive was a blur of traffic lights and intersections. The sky had turned flat and gray, hanging low over the buildings like a lid. I gripped the steering wheel tighter than necessary, the leather biting into my palms. Beside me, Jenna stared straight ahead, knuckles white around her phone. As we got closer, the neighborhood shifted. Clean sidewalks giving way to cracked pavement, newer storefronts replaced by faded signs and empty windows. The address led us to a squat brick building, squeezed between a pawn shop and a check-cashing place. A faded sign over the door read, "Community Family Counseling." My stomach dropped. "Counseling?" Jenna whispered. "Why would he bring her here?" I pulled into the parking lot. Only a few cars dotted the spaces. One of them I recognized immediately, Kyle's dark sedan. "He wants control of the narrative," I said slowly. "If he paints their problems as her chaos and his patience, any counselor will see him as the reasonable one. And if she tells them about last night, about me, he gets to frame me too." Jenna swallowed. "So who sent the address? Him, trying to scare you? Or someone inside who realized something was wrong?" I didn't know. But the unknown number, the messages, the address, none of it felt accidental anymore. "Stay close," I told her. We stepped out of the car. The air smelled faintly of exhaust and damp concrete. I heard a siren somewhere in the distance, the sound stretching thin across the gray morning. Inside, the building was cooler than I expected. The waiting room held mismatched chairs, a low coffee table cluttered with outdated magazines, a potted plant whose leaves drooped toward the carpet. Behind the reception desk sat a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and a cardigan. She looked up as the door chimed. "Good morning," she said. "Do you have an appointment?" "I'm looking for my daughter," I replied. "Her name is Lily Harper. She might be here with her fiancé, Kyle." The receptionist's expression flickered for just a second, small but noticeable. "And you are?" "Her mother." Jenna shifted beside me. The receptionist glanced at her, then back at me, weighing something. "They're in a session right now," she said carefully. "We don't usually disturb—" "Is she okay?" I interrupted. "She seemed—" Emotional, the receptionist admitted, but that's normal in couples work. What's the counselor's name? Jenna asked. Dr. Lane, she replied. I exhaled slowly. I'm not here to disrupt therapy, I said, though even as I said it, I knew that might be exactly what I'd have to do. But I received messages that concern me, from an unknown number, telling me to be afraid, sending me this address. Someone wanted me here, or wanted to scare me away from coming. Either way, something is wrong. I pulled my phone from my bag and slid it across the counter, showing her the messages. Her eyes scanned them, lips pressing into a line. That's troubling, she murmured. And my daughter left our house after believing her fiancé cheated on her, I continued. He didn't. But I stayed silent while she fell apart, and now he's spinning a story where I'm the villain and he's her savior. He isolates her. He controls her. I have copies of messages and emails that show it. I set the folded papers beside the phone. The receptionist studied me, really studied me this time. Then she picked up the phone on her desk and pressed a button. I'm paging Dr. Lane, she said. Please wait here. We sat. The clock on the wall ticked too loudly. Somewhere down the hallway, a door closed softly. A muffled voice drifted for a moment, then faded. My knee bounced. Jenna put a hand on it to still it. Her touch was steady. I was grateful for it. A minute later, a woman in her 40s with short dark hair and glasses appeared in the doorway. She wore a blazer over a simple blouse, a pen tucked behind one ear. Her expression was professional, but not unkind. I'm Dr. Lane, she said. You're Lily's mother? Yes. She nodded once, then looked at the receptionist, who subtly slid my phone and the papers toward her. Dr. Lane glanced down at them, brows drawing together. Why don't you come back with me for a moment, she said. Just you, for now. Jenna started to rise. It's okay, I told her. Stay here. Text Mark the office number. She nodded reluctantly. I followed Dr. Lane down a narrow hallway lined with doors. The carpet muffled our steps. We stopped outside one of the doors where the sound of voices leaked through. Lily's high and tight, Kyle's low and measured. Dr. Lane turned to me. They're in the middle of an exercise, she said quietly. She's expressing feelings. He's responding. Before I consider inviting you in or pausing the session, I need to understand something. Okay. These messages, she said, lifting my phone slightly, and these printouts, when did you receive them? When did you collect this? Last night, and this morning, after they left my house. And why bring them here? Because I think he's using this session to control the narrative, I said, and I think he's more dangerous to her than he appears. Her eyes held mine for a long moment, then she nodded once, decision made. I'll go in first, she said. Wait here. Don't knock. Don't interrupt. I stood there in the hallway, alone, my back against the wall, my heart beating so loudly I was sure the people in the next office could hear it. I closed my eyes for a second, focusing on the feel of the cool paint beneath my shoulders. You should be afraid. Maybe for the first time, I wasn't. The door opened a crack. Voices spilled out more clearly. I just don't understand why she would laugh at me, Lily was saying, her voice frayed. I was completely falling apart, and she laughed, like she always does when things get too intense for her. So you feel mocked, Dr. Lane said. Betrayed. Yes, Lily whispered. And stupid. I feel stupid. Kyle's voice followed, smooth, controlled. I've tried to tell her for years that her mother can't handle conflict, he said. She always shuts down or makes it about how overwhelmed she is. I'm the one who has to hold everything together. Something inside me snapped, but not like a branch breaking, like a spine straightening. Dr. Lane slipped into the room and closed the door behind her, but not all the way. The latch didn't click. Through the small gap, I could hear more. I'd like to pause for a moment, Dr. Lane said. There's something I need to address before we go further. What? Lily asked nervously. I was just approached by your mother in the waiting room, Dr. Lane said. She showed me some material that concerns me regarding safety and control dynamics in your relationship. Silence. Kyle's voice sharpened. She came here? That's inappropriate. This is our space, our process. Therapy is a space for truth, Dr. Lane replied evenly. All of it. Not just the parts that make us comfortable. My hand pressed flat against the wall beside the doorframe. Of course she ran to you, Kyle said. She always needs to be the victim, and now she's dragging you into this with her dramatics. Is that how you see your future mother-in-law? Dr. Lane asked. I see her as someone who makes everything about herself, he said. We came here to work on our relationship. She's trying to invade it because she can't handle being called out. The irony of him using those words in that order almost made me laugh again. Instead, I inhaled slowly. Lily, Dr. Lane said gently, how do you feel hearing him say that? I don't know, Lily whispered. I'm tired. I'm tired of being between them. I'm tired of feeling like I have to choose. My chest ached. Dr. Lane's tone shifted slightly, firmer. Before we continue, she said, I need to ask you both something directly. Has there been any behavior in your relationship that could be considered controlling or threatening? No, Kyle said quickly. Lily hesitated. Her voice broke a little. Sometimes he gets angry, but it's not like that. He worries about me, a lot. Define a lot, Dr. Lane pressed. He calls if I don't answer fast enough, Lily said. He wants to know where I am, who I'm with. He says it's because he cares and because he's the only one who really shows up for me. My parents, she trailed off. My parents don't, she almost said. Dr. Lane was quiet for a beat. Lily, she said calmly, did you know he sent you an email recently that said, you need to learn your place? Silence. What? Lily whispered. Kyle laughed once. Dismissive. You're taking that out of context. Couples say things when they're upset. It doesn't mean anything. How did you know about that email? Lily asked, voice sharpening. Because your mother found a printout in your room, Dr. Lane said. She also showed me voicemails where he said your parents won't save you, and messages where you repeatedly apologize for things you haven't done. Another beat of silence. I could hear Lily's breathing from the hallway now, quick and uneven. You went into my room, Lily said, hurt layered with outrage. Why would she? Because she's worried about you, Dr. Lane said gently but firmly, and because she's starting to see patterns she didn't want to admit were there. Kyle's voice dropped lower. This is ridiculous, he said. We're here to work on us, and you're letting her sabotage. The door opened fully. Dr. Lane stepped aside. Come in, she said to me. The room was small, a couch on one side, 2 chairs on the other, a tissue box on the low table between them. Lily sat on the couch, eyes swollen, hands twisted together in her lap. Kyle sat beside her, jaw clenched, shoulders tense. His eyes widened when he saw me, then narrowed. Unbelievable, he muttered. I stepped inside, every muscle in my body taut but controlled. The air felt thick, full of old hurt and fresh fear. Why are you here? Lily asked, voice breaking. Haven't you done enough? That's exactly why I'm here, I said quietly, because I've done too little for too long. Kyle scoffed. Here we go? Dr. Lane looked at him. You will have time to speak, she said. For now, I'd like to hear from her. My heart pounded, but my voice came out steady. I came because someone has been sending me messages, I said, telling me I deserve to be afraid, telling me to stop digging, sending me this address. Whoever it is doesn't want me looking too closely at what's been happening to my daughter. Lily's gaze flicked between me and Kyle, confusion clouding her features. What messages? I pulled out my phone and read them aloud. Every word hung in the room like smoke. You deserve this. You should be afraid. Stop digging. Last warning. Then I held the phone up so they could see. Lily's eyes widened. When did you get those? Since you left the house, I said. Right after I started looking through your messages and emails. Right after I started seeing how often you apologize, how often you shrink yourself, how often you say you're wrong even when you're not. Kyle shifted. You're reading private things out of context, he said. That's invasive. That's the real problem here. Dr. Lane turned to him. Did you send those messages? She asked. No, he said flatly. Why would I threaten her mother? That doesn't even make sense. Because you're angry I didn't just stand there and let you rewrite reality, I said. He smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Reality? That's rich coming from someone who can't even acknowledge her own abuse. Lily flinched. Abuse? She whispered. She abused you emotionally your whole life, Kyle said smoothly, eyes on her now. Always making things about her feelings, her exhaustion, her sacrifices. You told me yourself. You told him that, I interrupted softly. Through a lens he helped polish. His head snapped toward me. You think I don't know what I've done wrong? I continued. I stayed quiet when I should have spoken. I laughed when you needed protection. I retreated when parenting you got hard, and I dressed it up as giving you space, but I have never once deliberately tried to break you. My throat tightened, but I kept going. He did. The room stilled. Kyle's jaw flexed. That's a serious accusation, he said. I could sue you for defamation. You can sue me for breathing at this point, I replied. I don't care, but I'm done standing aside while you teach my daughter that love means fear. I pulled the folded email from my pocket and handed it to Dr. Lane. She opened it, scanned it, then passed it to Lily. Her hands shook as she read. You need to learn your place, she whispered. Her voice cracked on the last word. Like I said, Kyle cut in, that was taken out of context. She just embarrassed me in front of my friends again. What about the voicemails? I asked. Telling her her parents wouldn't save her. Telling her she'd regret walking away. Are those out of context too? He shifted slightly. You're twisting. And what about last night in the driveway? I added. When you grabbed her arm so hard our neighbor thought she might need help. Lily's head snapped up. What? She saw you, I said. She saw how close you stood, how you pulled her when she stepped back. She came to my house this morning to tell me. I was keeping her from storming off at midnight, Kyle protested. In a bad neighborhood. It was for her safety. You weren't there. You never are. That's enough, Dr. Lane said sharply. We're not going to drown in spin. Her voice sliced through the rising chaos. Everyone went still. Lily, she said softly, turning to my daughter, right now I want you to look at the behaviors, not the excuses. Does it feel good to be tracked? To be told you need to learn your place? To be grabbed when you try to create distance? To be told your parents will never save you? Lily swallowed hard. Tears brimmed at the corners of her eyes, but she didn't let them fall yet. I don't know, she whispered. I thought it meant he cared, that he didn't want to lose me, that someone finally wanted me enough to fight for me. Pain shot through me so sharp I had to bite the inside of my cheek. That's not fighting for you, Dr. Lane said gently. That's fighting for control of you. A long silence stretched. You could have heard a pin drop. Then Lily turned to me. Did you really go through my things? She asked. Yes, I said. I did. I went looking for proof I was overreacting. Proof that I'd misjudged him. Proof that I was the problem. And instead, I found proof I've been asleep, I said quietly. For years. While you were slowly taught to believe that love is supposed to hurt this much. Her lip trembled. Kyle leaned closer to her. You don't have to listen to this, he said in a low voice. She's just trying to pull you back into her control. She's terrified of being left alone. Remember what we talked about? Her neediness, her emotional blackmail. I took a step forward. My voice dropped to something colder than I'd heard from myself in a long time. Lily, I said, if you want to hate me for going through your things, I'll accept that. If you want to scream at me for laughing when I should have spoken, I'll accept that too. I have earned your anger. I took another step. But I will not, I said slowly. Stand by and watch you disappear into someone else's version of you. Not again, not ever. The room seemed to hold its breath. Kyle scoffed. There she is, he said, the martyr, the savior, making this all about her being the hero who finally steps up. I looked at him fully then. Every ounce of guilt burned away, leaving something clean and unyielding. I'm not here to be the hero, I said. I'm here to be the mother. The words landed with a weight that froze the room. For a second, no one moved. Then my phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out reflexively, and my blood ran cold. Another message from the unknown number. Just 3 words this time. Look behind you. I didn't turn immediately when the message appeared. For one suspended moment, I stayed standing in that small therapy room, Lily's breath unsteady, Kyle's fury simmering, Dr. Lane watching all of us with the tense awareness of someone who had just witnessed the floor shift beneath everyone's feet. My fingers trembled around the phone, the words burning in my palm. Look behind you. Slowly, I lifted my gaze to Dr. Lane. She gave a barely perceptible nod. Permission, reassurance, or simply readiness, I wasn't sure. Then I turned. The hallway behind me was empty, nothing but quiet carpet and the faint buzz of fluorescent lights overhead. The world didn't crack open. No attacker lunged, no shadow moved. But something still shifted inside me. Not fear, not shock. Final clarity. The messages were a scare tactic, nothing more. A distraction designed to keep me frozen. Someone wanted me looking over my shoulder instead of straight ahead. Someone wanted me afraid of the wrong things. For the first time in a long time, I understood exactly where to look. I pocketed the phone and stepped back into the room, closing the door gently behind me. Kyle watched me with something dark flickering in his eyes, a calculation interrupted, a strategy unraveling. Lily wiped her cheek with the back of her hand, her breathing slow but deliberate, as if she were trying to reclaim her own air. Dr. Lane sat down again, folding her hands. I think, she said quietly, we all need a moment of truth here. But the truth had already settled, heavy, final, clear. I moved to the empty chair beside Lily and sat, not reaching for her, not begging for forgiveness. Just sitting beside her in a way I hadn't done for years, present, steady. Neither of us spoke right away, but the space between us shifted, just slightly, just enough for air to pass where only tension had lived before. Kyle leaned forward. Lily, don't let her twist this. You know how she is. She held up a hand, just that simple gesture, and it silenced him. Her voice, when it came, was small but firm. I need space. He blinked. From me or her? From you, she said. He tried to laugh it off, that practiced mix of disbelief and charm. You're overwhelmed. You're not thinking clearly. This is exactly what I was afraid of. People getting in your head. This isn't someone else's voice, she said. It's mine. I just haven't heard it in a long time. He opened his mouth again, but Dr. Lane's voice cut across the room. Kyle, she said calmly, I think this session is over for today. His jaw tightened. You can't kick me out. I'm not kicking you out, she said. I'm ending the session. He stood abruptly, the chair legs scraping harshly against the floor. Fine, he snapped, but this isn't over. He looked at Lily one more time. Something sharp, something warning curled behind his expression, but she didn't fold beneath it. She didn't even look away. He slammed the door on his way out. The silence afterward was different from all the others we'd endured these past days. It wasn't empty. It wasn't heavy. It felt like the moment after a storm ends. Air still trembling with the memory of thunder, but already lighter. Lily finally breathed out. Not a shaky breath, a releasing one. I don't know what to do, she whispered. You don't have to know today. I said softly. "You only have to be safe." She nodded slowly, and then, hesitating at first, she let her head fall gently against my shoulder. Not the way she did as a child, not the way she did in high school. This was different, older, fragile. A step taken, not a habit returned. My hand lifted and rested lightly on her back. No words, no promises, just presence. Dr. Lane watched us with quiet understanding, then stood. "Take your time," she said. "You both need it." We stayed like that for several minutes, unmoving until Lily pulled away and wiped her face again. "Can I come home?" she asked. The question didn't break me. It rebuilt me. "Whenever you're ready," I said. She nodded, and for the first time in days, her shoulders softened. Not unburdened, not healed, but no longer bracing for impact. We walked out of that building together. Outside, the sky had cleared just enough for soft light to break through the clouds. It wasn't bright. It wasn't dramatic. But it was enough. Mark pulled into the parking lot just as we stepped onto the sidewalk. He got out of the car quickly, worry etched deeply into his face, but when he saw Lily between Jenna and me, his expression shifted, not to relief exactly, but to something steadier, something hopeful. Lily walked to him first. He opened his arms. She let herself fall into them. I stood a few feet away, not intruding, not retreating, just there, present finally, in a way that didn't ask anything of her. As they separated, Lily turned toward me. Her eyes still carried exhaustion, hurt, doubt. But behind it all, something fragile had shifted. Trust, not restored, but no longer lost. We got into the car together. Jenna followed us in hers. No one spoke on the drive home. The silence was no longer frightening. It was recovery. It was breath. It was the beginning of something better than what we'd been surviving. By the time we reached the house, the sun had begun to break through fully, sending pale gold across the porch and windows. Lily paused at the doorway as if bracing for the memories inside, the fight, the shouting, the unraveling. I touched her shoulder lightly. "You're not alone," I said, and this time, I meant it. She stepped inside. So did I. If you stayed with me through this story, thank you. Sometimes the hardest truths are the ones we finally speak aloud. If any part of this reminded you of someone you love or someone you once were, feel free to share your heart with me. No one heals alone.